before I get to who I'm looking at, I mean, this tournament is a level up for all these kids. So when you watch them at their various levels, with the Canadian kids in the junior A leagues across Canada, the USHL, you know, this is a step up in competition. So it really gives these players and the scouts a really good opportunity to evaluate them at a higher level of play. So for the players, it's awesome for them to test themselves. And as you come here and you have a great idea of all these players and what they've done, but as they challenge themselves at higher levels, you get a lot better picture, a lot more confident picture of what they're capable of doing. So, you know, that's kind of the overall. But I mean, it's hard not to say that Brendan Brisson and Sean Farrell, and then my favorite hockey name of all time, Gunnar Wolf-Fontaine. I mean, they've been just lights out brilliant here in this tournament. I mean, and not just in terms, you can look at the score sheet and see how good they've been. It's like they're dangerous every time they step out on the ice, and their mind, their skills, and their competitiveness. I mean, it's one of the best lines I've seen at this tournament in a long, long time.
Yeah, well, you took that question right out of the back of my mind. I've been talking about this for months, and those who know me well, that I really am passionate about the junior A level and the caliber of hockey it seems it has been raising over the last 5 years. Players wanting to go the NCAA route, to get that opportunity for a scholarship. What is so special to you about this junior A level and the caliber of competition?
Well, there's not one path that gets you to the NHL. There's multiple paths. And I tell parents, I tell kids all the time, Dave, you know, understand what each path can offer you. And then once you understand that, then you can make what I call a full and complete decision about which one you think suits you best. But some players, you know, they're going to need more time rather than less. So they look at it and they go, well, it's a better path for me to go the college route. And there's some great NCAA programs. There's players that play junior A before they go to the CHL because they're not ready at 16 for the most part. So there's a lot of different ways that this level helps a player pursue his goals and to get better. And the level of coaching, the quality of play, it just continues to improve, to your point, and right across the country. And so if you're a young player that wants to develop, depending on whatever even if you're not sure what path you want to go on, it's a great level to really play, grow, develop, and see where the future takes you.
I know we have obviously a lot of American viewers watching and Canadian viewers, and Canadians know how much that we love hockey. And for Americans, the American game has been raised year after year because of the NCAA. 22 NCAA commits on the Americans, 3 NHL draft picks. Your opinion, what has made USA hockey continue to get better and better and stronger every year?
Well, you know, one of the big things, and I'm going to be saying it for a long, long time, but the late Jimmy Johansson, who was the executive director at USA Hockey, you know, he had the idea of the National Team Development Program, but it didn't stop there. It went deeper. And hockey around the United States wasn't organized it was organized in very different ways. High school hockey in Minnesota, club hockey in Michigan, high school prep hockey in Massachusetts. So he really, because he had participated in the Olympics internationally, he really wanted to create an environment where those young players could play for their country and compete internationally. And you know, you start to think, oh, you have 24 kids or 22 kids going to the National Team Development Program, but they didn't stop there. They realized that there was a lot more players that were going to be able to play. The USHL is a really well-organized league. The North American Hockey League is continuing to try to grow. And if you want to play prep school or you want to play high school, you still have that opportunity. But the whole level, the organization, it used to be kind of splintered. And it wasn't anybody's fault, but Jimmy's vision has really shown itself. I mean, when you look at the U20, U18, U17, that USA National Team Development Program, the World Junior A Challenge, the US program's great, the college commits. So it really is growing, and it's not just growing in those traditional markets, it's growing in the non-traditional markets as well.
All right, so we'll head back home for a bit, I guess, then talk about Team Canada. I hear there's another junior tournament coming up in a couple, I don't remember the name of it. I mentioned earlier in the week, the World Junior Hockey Championships are more popular than Santa Claus, I think, at Christmas time now. I've got a few guys who played in this tournament formerly for Team Canada, Dylan Holloway and Alex Newhook recently cut. Jacob Bernard-Docker still kind of in that process. But where do you kind of see Bernard-Docker, and what do you see the future for Holloway, who is eligible for this year's draft?
Well, I'll start with Jacob Bernard-Docker, who played in Okotoks, and obviously a first-round draft pick, but a really, really solid player. If you're looking for those end-to-end dashes and those highlight reel plays, you're not going to get that from Jacob. But what you're going to get is just incredibly competitive, smart, efficient play. The puck comes out of your zone. He's smart defensively. And at North Dakota, he's just taking his play and taking it to a higher level. They're going to be counting on him to be a really important figure for Team Canada at the World Junior Hockey Championships. No doubt about that. And there's a great example. First round draft pick, but he felt that the NCAA path was a better path for him. And again, I tell people all the time, anybody tells you that one path is better than the other, run for the hills. Because what is better for one person may not be better for you, so understand what it is.
Yeah.
That aside, Dylan played in Okotoks as well. He's going to be back in the program next year. He's been a big part of Hockey Canada. You're obviously disappointed when you don't make the team. You go there with such determination. Same with Alex Newhook.
Yeah.
But their future is bright, and there's no question. Alex was a first-round draft pick. There's no question that Dylan's going to be a first-round draft pick.
Sure.
Dylan can do so many things in the game and play in so many different situations. You're always looking for those types of players.
Well, you mentioned Okotoks, and it'd be hard to mention the AJHL without saying the Brooks Bandits.
Oh, boy.
And I would hear it from no end if I didn't bring up the name Kale Makara from you in this conversation. What to you was so special about him when you saw him come through, play junior, and then now to where he is in the NHL?
Yeah, well, and let me just give a little shout out to Ryan Papuano, who does such a terrific job in Brooks. Yeah. And there was a player playing here with Canada West, Corson Sulemans, who plays in Brooks now. He's headed to Wisconsin, and he's taking the NCAA, just an elite player. But when you think about Kale, and I worked with Kale's dad Gary, so I knew Kale from a younger age. But he was exactly the case of a player that was going to need more time, not less.
Okay.
He was smaller, but just because you're small at 14 doesn't mean you're going to be small at 17 or 18.
Sure.
He understood that. He was in a great program, and then he decided, I'm going to college. And not only that, after he was the 4th overall pick, he went back for another year because he wasn't interested in coming to the NHL and being a player. He wanted to come into the NHL and be a difference maker.
Yep.
And that extra year allowed him that maturity to come in and really take the league by its, really a stranglehold.
Yeah.
He's been phenomenal, but the creativity, the ability to skate, he makes plays on the move like very few players are capable of doing. He's so dynamic in his mind, in his hands, and in his feet that when you look at the Colorado Avalanche, this is an elite team, and they are well positioned to compete for Stanley Cups for a lot of years. And I'm not talking about in the years to come. I'm talking beginning right now.
Yeah. Well, you have 9 players to watch on Craigslist in this tournament, and Shakir Mukamadulin, the highest ranked one, guys like Carter Savoy, Sherwood Park Crusaders in there too. Out of all of those guys on your list, who do you kind of see as maybe being a surprise player in this year's NHL draft? Maybe a couple guys you can highlight.
Well, I'm going to do that. So Muhammadu and Kuznetsov, they're both really good defensemen, but the player that I don't know, it's not a surprise anymore. It shouldn't be because he was just outside the top 31 is Brendan Brisson.
Yeah.
He's an elite player. He is a player that can play the game in all its areas. He plays it competitively, physically, and mentally. He's got the skill. He's not a guy that's going in the second round. He's a first-round draft pick. He's so good, and I've watched him improve over the last 2.5 years. It's really impressive to watch him. Sean Farrell, he's a player too, played with the National Team Development Program. His agent, Peter Fish, said, he goes, does he remind you of Chris Drury? And I said, you know what, you start to think of the type of player, but then I started to think about the way he plays and what Sean does. He just helps everybody be better. Yeah. And that's what Chris did. So those are a couple of the names that come to mind. Next year, Kent Johnson will be playing at the University of Michigan. Pretty good player.
Yeah.
It's too bad Canada West didn't get on. It was one of those years where they weren't able to get their game in order to a level that would allow them to compete for a medal. But they have some good players too. And you mentioned Savoy, he was a good player. Sometimes you come and you just don't have your best game, but it doesn't mean you're not a good player.
But it makes the tournament better, right?
Yeah,
Canada East is more competitive this year as well. Getting the wrap-up cue from Corey Bro here, and that means that we could talk for probably
Sure,
the
we
rest of
could,
the
yeah.
game, but Craig, I really appreciate your time. Thanks so much for doing this, and yes, I'm excited to watch you guys in action tomorrow.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me.
All right, Craig Button, TSN's Director of Scouting, will be back for the second period of play, scoreless between USA and Canada East.